Okay, now geothermal energy is the other most important source of energy in the Earth. And just think about the Earth and the inside of the Earth is very, very hot. I'm sure you've all seen diagrams like this. The core is very hot, not too, and the mantle, which is outside the core, between the core and the crust, is somewhat cooler, and the crust here is where we live, which is the coolest part of the Earth. And you can imagine entropy, which flows from hot objects to cold objects. Well, entropy is flowing from the center toward the crust in all directions, through the rock, from hot to cold. So entropy flows by conduction since this is mostly a solid object. There's some parts of it are somewhat liquid, but they're flowing fairly slowly. So entropy flows by conduction, and it's partly convection in the parts of the Earth which are liquid. From the core to the crust. Now the Earth was very hot when it was first formed, as you saw in that video, and it got heated up by all the explosions of meteors crashing onto the surface of the Earth. So when a meteor comes along, crashes into the surface of the Earth, it makes an explosion, and some of the heat which is generated in that explosion stays on the Earth and makes the Earth warm. Well, in the very early years of the Earth's formation, there was so many asteroids crashing into the Earth that it heated up the entire Earth and made it one giant ball of molten rock. It's very slowly been cooling off since then, and the rate at which it's cooling off has been measured very carefully by drilling holes down under the Earth in oil rigs when they're drilling for oil or mining or various different ways of measuring how fast this entropy is flowing. It turns out that if you look at how hot the Earth is now and how fast entropy is flowing out of the Earth should be cooler than it is if all that heat had just come from meteors crashing into the Earth. So there's another source of heat. The other source of so the heat partly comes from impacts during the Earth's formation, and it also comes from something else, and that something else is what we call radioactivity. Now radioactivity has a role here because some of the material inside the Earth that makes up the Earth is radioactive. And when radioactive materials emit particles, they create entropy. So that's what this whole section of the course is going to be about.